typing up a storm at the on the chat line. We might get to that. But now here's I want Bert to hear this. What can I say? Where are you, Bert?
Well, I was also thinking about what he said. Music expresses the heart and the soul. I mean, now that we know what we know music cannot express the heart or the soul. Right. And I was thinking, what does music really expresses?
It's the most harmonious version of social motor. It connects people. Social motor language is there to connect people, like non-physical, and the language is a little more complex than pure non-physical. But music is the best achievement of social motor. Doesn't lead to salvation, but it is the perfection of human communication. Wouldn't that be the role of it?
Or I was thinking maybe it was like the first type of abstraction. Like we want to develop the phonetic alphabet with giving these phonemes symbol, a letter.
Yeah.
And music, and this was the first abstraction, but maybe music was the first type of abstract language. That's something we could communicate with without mortar, without words.
Yeah, without semantics. Semantic verbal interruption, verbal confusion. It's pure language, pure social motor. It's social motor, and Ian said that. Ian said that music is part of mortar. It's not the communication that that Ian projects on transcension.
Yes, and I was thinking, what type of creations we're going to have when the senses are no longer separated and we have this synesthetic perception and we can see the sound and hear the light.
Well, Ian gave us it. Right, Ian told us, he said, when you have an orgasm, your whole body will ripple. Your whole skin will ripple. That's what people will be doing.
So that would be their real rock and roll.
Yes. And I wanted to say, the rock and roll. Right. And McLuhan said Joyce had stone and water in every line. Stone is rock, roll is water. So rock and roll is the basic dialectic between water and stone. That it's Finneganese in not
Listen, and you were saying at the beginning we are the stone, the rolling stone.
Yeah, Zappa song, help, I'm a rock. Where's my roll? But did I say we're a stone? Did I say that?
Something like that. Yeah, we are now the magnesium or stone or something like that.
Yeah, I said we are mineral. We're not even human. There's no chemical body. Everything's been wiped out. Yes, we are just a slab of dirt.
We're the Rolling Stones.
Rolling Stones, that's right. So, Bert, any comment before I give the big summation?
Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, I thought I was muted. No.
No, I unmuted you as soon as you showed up.
Oh, I didn't hear it. The music, Ion said music is part of mortar, but also McLuhan said that music is speech slowed down. So is that what Ion's referring to, that music's part of mortar? But we're moving to, with Payday, more of a complex or a collage of speech, music, or actually including everything.
Synesthesia.
Yeah.
That's why people start having anomalies. There's actually a synesthesia effect of Ion. And they start mixing up, their brains and senses get addled like on LSD, and they start having interesting experiences.
So what the big picture of what Ion's doing is they're changing our corpus callosum, perhaps?
They're changing the whole physical body, the cellular structure, so that you are not going to be made up of what medical anatomy says you're made up of. You're not going to be following those biological rules. And the more adept you are, you'll be able to adopt any form.
Yeah. That's what's fun about this before you go to recap of Zappa, is because from what I'm gathering, it's like a large collage of all the experiences that most people have had involving music, and then if you include McLuhan with the print and the alphabet, Zappa covers it all. That's why I agree with you and Roxana that he's the last great composer, because he included everything. A lot of people, just like most of the Zappa fans, will just look at Zappa as a musician. But what you're presenting and laying out here, the dude was really a lot larger than just a musician. I mean, he's like you said, what do you call it? You had a word for it.
Satellite conductor. He's a satellite
conductor. Satellite conductor. Yes.
Yeah. 2 points. Remember when Michael Blake Reed, channeling the Evergreens, when I talked to Frank through him and the Evergreens, when he came out of it, he says, "Holy shit, I was inside Frank's brain. It was huge. He had many projects going. I've never been in anybody else's brain." This is what Michael's hallucinating in his dream state when he's out and unconscious, but he's dreaming. And he dreamed of being inside Frank's brain. I could probably read the transcript. We have it here somewhere. But that's interesting, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And
because we know dreams are parallel travel. I mean,
beg your pardon?
Maybe really that. Dreams are not the dream. It's real traveling.
That's right. Yeah, he actually went somewhere. And maybe Zappa was this 500-year-old guy, and brain was expanding. He used to talk about Uncle Meat would expand the brain cells of ruminant jets, and it would show by their noses getting bigger. I think that's what it was. He talks about extra cells. Holy shit. That's the 144,000 double helix strands in the nose. You have to get the notes to that and read it precisely. But what?
No, Michael Blake Reed, he said he felt he was in Zappa's brain.
Inside Zappa's brain. He said, I never was in anybody else's brain. People talk to people, and Michael's dreaming about the person. He never dreamt of the person and experienced the inside of the brain. He said there was all kinds of projects. And I think he says, why didn't you, he asked, in the dream, he asked Frank, why didn't you do all these other projects? And Frank says, it's because of the name. I had a lot of bad associations with my name. People didn't want to work with me or something. And then Michael said, he said to him, well, why don't you change your name? And Frank said, yeah, I had thought of that. And then it petered out. But there was a conversation. Michael was just curious. So you got all these other things you can do. And the other thing is you got Frank. He's not only the last musician, he's making the last grand humanist gesture. He's running for president. That's the final art form. Which happens in the movie The World's Greatest Sinner. He's acting out what Tim Carey presented in World's Greatest Sinner. This insurance salesman gets bored. Elvis is happening in the late 50s, so he said, I'm going to do that. So he makes up a rock band and acts, totally crazy on the stage, way crazier than Elvis, epileptic fits and everything, and he becomes very popular. And then he forms a religion, and then he seduces 14-year-olds and old women, and gets the old women to give him their wills and testaments. And so he builds up that empire, and I'm not sure if he becomes president, but eventually he decides to go after God. He challenges God. And then I talked about that. That ends up in a disaster, I think. But he was the world's greatest sinner. And he goes from, working stiff to an entertainer to a politician. And Frank was doing the same thing. And, Dr. Zircon, we're going to find out, is a term for the devil. So here's Frank calling himself Dr. Zircon. So, and you remember his brother Frank, when he was like late teens, early 20s, he told his brother that he'd made a pact with the devil. So, that's acted out in the song Titties and Beer with Terry Bozzio on drums. Okay, now here's what Frank's doing. He recognizes that the satellite environment will turn the planet into a concentration camp. That's like the worst projections of what's going to happen to the global village. Now, he's coming up with on his own, maybe because being an intelligent artist or genius, he's picking up the implications of the new environment just like McLuhan did. So if you have a pretty open, perceptive mind, you'll come up with the same ideas as you observe the planet in the 60s. So, but here's the interesting thing is that Frank, he's not worried about a world government in the concentration camp. He's saying it will be run from the moon, which is what Beater said, 13 years later. So you have this battle for the moon. That's the leverage point. Archimedes says, give me a place to stand and I can move the world. So Frank says, okay, you have this space race, you have these crummy politicians, these jerks, and they're fighting secretly to buy the moon, to own the moon, to control the planet from the moon. So that's why he calls his daughter Moon Unit, right? It's a political statement. And he writes a song called Concentration Moon, and in Time magazine he talks about the Uncle Meat movie being about the hippies gathered up and put in a concentration camp, in that case in the Grand Canyon, and they're saved by monsters from the monster movies. And you have here in this first screenplay, it's a battle for the moon, and they find this monster, the cosmic queen Celestion there, and she wants to take over the planet. So you have this simple image of a woman who's a greed queen and wants to be the owner of the Earth as a concentration camp from the moon.
Well, maybe the control is not from the moon, but from other types of satellites.
Yes, yeah, it could be, but they seem to, and Frank will repeat this in Hunchentute in 1972. In 1969, he now has the money to make the movie, and he gets Grace Slick to be in it, and Jim Morrison. They don't make the movie, but he takes the script from 1964 and he changes a bit, because now it's not Cape Smedley. There's an actual landing on the moon happening in the summer of 69, and this transcript is signed September 13th, 1969. So it's 2 months after, a month and a half or a month and 3/4 after the actual landing on McLuhan's birthday, July 20th, 21st, 1969. So he's dealing with the facts of an actual moon landing, where in 64 he's projecting it, and the senator's in charge of it. But all this story about Senator Gurney and Johnny, the corn-fed astronaut, is excluded from the 1969 version screenplay, because Frank just has footage of the Apollo landing. He just uses footage of what's available by 1969. So it's just a general government mission to get on the moon, and Billy is, like in the previous script, he's planning and does the same thing as happened in the first script of taking over the planet, but there's another dimension added, and this is what's extraordinary. Let me see. Are you still there, Bert?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So McLuhan is saying the global village is going to turn into a global theater. We're going to see Frank update the concentration camp theme with the global theater later. But in 69, he's talking about concentration moon, a monster which could save us, could turn against us, and then there's this other weird monster, the spider, and that can be a problem too. Remember, there is a spider in Hunchentute. I think we talked about it a little while ago. So he's obsessed with the effects of the satellite environment. That's why I call him a satellite conductor. And I called him that, 20 years ago in Up the Earth for Annie, but I hadn't read these scripts to make it a good reason. So that's an example of me intuiting the right imagery. You know what I mean? The right statement. Yeah. I prophetically came up with it, and now I know why I should have come up with it. So it ends with an orgy. And there's Frank, educating the high school and telling the kids to start having orgies. Now, that's before the sexual revolution of the mid-'60s, just before it. But by the late 60s, the sexual, so-called journalistically, sexual revolution has happened, so it's not an issue for Frank to make part of his programming in classroom, right? It's obsolete. It happened anyway.
Yes, but
so the right-wingers say...
Baudrillard asked, what are you doing after the orgy? It's not the meat sack orgy, but the orgy with your all 6 bodies.
That's right. That's what they don't know. Baudrillard didn't know that. But the other point about Zappa is what? The right wing, when he gets on Crossfire in the 80s, people like Pat, who's that guy who ran for Buchanan, Pat Buchanan and those guys, he's a spokesman for the right wing. He says, well, Frank, the revolution, the sexual revolution you started, they think Frank started, and in a way he did. He was the first guy in pop culture to be out there blatantly advertising the groupies and celebrating groupies in rock and all that. In other sexual aspects, he was seen as a sexual anarchist. He celebrated, even though he was married, he celebrated having groupies. Let's see.
No, but he had this open polygamy or honest polygamy concept.
That's right. He had a couple of his girlfriends live with him while he was married to Gail.
He was in this environment, and that was the thing. Like, he was honest about it.
He was in this environment of rock, you mean?
Yes, of the groupies and...
Yeah. He was honest about it. That's right. Let me see. What else was going to say?
Even in an interview, he says his wife had to get the drugs to heal some types of sexual infections or things he catch.
Well, that's what she says when she first met him. He was filled with crabs. He said that Frank... she said that, before she met him, he had all these groupies around him and a prostitute or two. And she said that Frank and his girlfriends, spread the crabs all over Hollywood. That's what they were doing. So many people in Frank's orgy scene were infected.
The love of Celesta.
The philosophy of Celestia, constantly trying to get an orgy going. So what? I think there was another aspect. So the moon, the concentration camp. You see when he quits the mothers and he gets attention in October '69. He's in Time magazine. He says the concentration camp is run by a Colonel Sanders doll. The Kentucky Fried Chicken guy. A little doll in the glove compartment of a Volkswagen. That's a little more surrealistic than some politician like Senator Gurney running the camp or a queen of green skin running the camp. So he's using his movies to lay out other scenarios. Is there anything? And it's interesting how he has Beefheart being this guy who's monitoring everything, is interdimensional, and he's inviting the kids.
He materializes.
Yeah. These are, you could say this is some kind of science fiction, and done in other things, but there's something different about this, because Frank is what he is. I call it Ion.
We could write something about you, the same, like, here's this art scientist.
I'm an artist scientist.
On environment.
I've got crabs. I've got fucking syphilis. Diarrhea. I'm a fucking walking pollution.
So, with this non-physical thing.
I got my spider of destiny is fucking Ion. That's my monster. I got this fucking monster that can wipe out anything.
They call fusion to conquer planet X.
That's pretty good. I hadn't actually made that clarify. Frank is literally writing the biography of Bob because I told him to, because I said I was fucking controlling Frank, as is presented in 1967 in my diaries. I have the meeting of all of them at Stanley's in the village, in the East Village, where Boert used to be a bartender. And
his master plan written by angels in tiny charts.
Yes, the discarnate angels. Frank and Beefheart are acting out the angelic plan. Now, I want to go to the second one, 5 years later, and this is incredible. I don't have to review. It's the same scenario, and there are a couple of footnotes we can do until I get you to the incredible punchline. Let's see. Get to that. I know I ticked off a few things at the end.
Did he upgrade the plot like he did with the 64 and 69 version? With the one you get ready to read?
I'm looking at the 69 version, and it's upgraded.
Oh, okay.
It's changed. I didn't have to. I read it all through, and I didn't have to change anything, or I couldn't even annotate new things because it was the same script until you get to the end. So it's exactly the same thing, and he doesn't. You no longer have Johnny, the corn-fed astronaut, working for the government, Senator Gurney. That's gone, so Billy is competing against Cape Canaveral. He's calling it no longer Cape Smedley, it's Cape Canaveral now. You know, it's the actual, what NASA was doing from the actual place.
But I was thinking science fiction is nothing compared to the real art science nonfiction of what things are, according to Ion. It's like we are fallen gods going back to a place of power and all this. I mean, it's beyond any science fiction when we think about it.
That's right, and even McLuhan said that Finnegan's Wake was science fiction, and most science fiction was puny, and the science fictionists didn't know that Finnegan's Wake and Wyndham Lewis were science fiction. So it's Cape Kennedy now, the Cape Kennedy Apollo launch. Is that Cape Canaveral was? I know that was a term. That Cape Kennedy is what they called it later.
No, I think he's just playing with the words.
Yeah, maybe.
No, I think it was Cape Canaveral, and then Kennedy got assassinated, and they changed it. Let me just check that. Yeah, because when the twist came out, McLuhan went on TV, and he called it the Cape Canaveral Caper. So McLuhan was even saying there's something fishy going on at Cape Canaveral. He called it a caper. These guys getting these budgets to do 19th century research by physically going to the moon. Okay, Cape Canaveral. It says you guys don't know the term Cape Canaveral?
Yes, I know that.
That's the only one I know. I think that
it is Kennedy Space Center, though.
Oh.
Yeah, it says Cape Canaveral is a cape in Brevard County, Florida, near the center of the state's Atlantic coast, known as Cape Kennedy from 1963 to 73. It lies east of Merritt Island, separated from it by the Banana River. It is part of a region known as the Space Coast and is the site of the Cape Canaveral Air Force Station. Since many U.S. spacecraft are launched from both the station and the Kennedy Space Center on Merritt Island, the terms Cape Canaveral, or the Cape have become metonyms that refer to both as the launch site of spacecraft. In homage to its spacefaring heritage, the Florida Public Service Commission allocated area code 321 to the Cape Canaveral area. 321, right? 321 countdown to the Cape Canaveral area. Other features of the Cape include the Cape Canaveral Lighthouse and Port Canaveral, one of the busiest cruise ports in the world. The city of Cape Canaveral lies just south of the Port Canaveral district. Mosquito Lagoon, the Indian River, Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge, and Canaveral National Seashore are also features of this area. So it stopped being Cape Kennedy after 73. So don't know what happened after that. Okay, so it's now Cape Kennedy Apollo moon launch. Okay, so let's move along here. Exact same scenario. Beefheart's traveling around interdimensionally. He takes his mother to the moon, and they've got to contend with the captivity by the grunts of Billy and Cecil and Larry, and then and there's the spiders there, and same line. The eye. Sue swats the target, the eye. In reality, a chicken egg injected with food coloring is crushed, releasing a quantity of multicolored goo. That there. So the first tick-off is page 84 of a script that's only 92 pages. Let me just check page 50. I thought there was something on page 55. No, nothing on page 55. So, at the end, and it's going to be an exciting ending, guys.
A happy ending.
Okay, Celestia.
Well,
now, I don't. What?
A sappy ending.
You predict a zappy ending or sappy?
Sappy like Zappa. Sappy ending.
Okay, so 5 years later, there's a new element. Celestia has a secret trapdoor, and is a purple secret trapdoor. Now, Zappa has a lot of his environment at his home in purple. The purple secret trapdoor with the diamond-studded handle. And when the Apollo moon landing guys land on the moon, it describes them wandering around the moon, and they don't notice the cave and the secret trapdoor where this whole drama with Billy, Cecil, Larry, and Beefheart, and Celestia and the grunts is happening. It says, let's see, Cecil and Larry with the girls. But Cecil decides not to join the orgy. In this one, where does he say that? Yeah, so Celestia falls in love with Celestia because she thinks Billy's dead. We did that. And she wants to repopulate the moon. And Celestia says, "Come with me, you beautiful earthling. Come, let's all return to the subterranean gardens and consummate our love feast." But now, here's where it's different. Cecil says quietly, "You guys just go on without me for now. I don't feel right, and maybe if I feel better in a little while, I'll make it over to the party. I'm really concerned about Uncle Billy." So he hasn't found Billy yet. So Celestia fondles Cecil. Celestia, in brackets, obviously horny, and she says, "But Earthling, our love feast, don't you want to go to a real lunar love feast?" Meanwhile, the other girls, friends, employees of Celestia, are kissing and mauling Larry, who really likes it a lot. The other girls kiss and maul Larry, who really likes it a lot. It's a juvenile simplicity sometimes in what he writes, jokingly, satirically. So the other girls squeal and writhe at the mere thought of this lunar love fest, or love feast. And then Celestia says, "Cool it, girls. Earthling, oh Earthling, my beloved Earthling, don't you want me?" Cecil, in brackets, not too convincingly goes, "You know I want you, green girl. Why don't you give me a little map to the party or something?" He says that not too convincingly, according to the script. So then Billy is in trouble. He thinks he's going to be killed, but let's see, Beefheart and Sue come in. Beefheart says, "I know I hear someone yelling." Sue says, that asthmatic wheeze, I know that. I hear it too. It must be a janitor. So it says, all the girls are waving goodbye to Cecil. still mauling Larry, who is trying to wave but is somewhat helpless in the clutches of the horny maidens. Cecil waves as they vanish in the distance. Before we do that, it says, remember, Celestia tells Cecil, the purple secret trapdoor with the diamond-studded handle. Then just keep going till you hit the crystal pool with the fragrantly scented, oxygen-producing giant subterranean ferns. Okay, just going back to where the astronauts, it describes the astronauts missing the trapdoor. Is that very far back? Let's see. Okay. Still looking for it. Yeah, it's I don't know if I'm going to find it. The point is that the purple door is indicated earlier in the script because Celestia is watching the regular Apollo moon landing from the secret door cave. So I can't find it, but it's earlier. So now we come to the dramatic ending. So Celestia tells Cecil how to find the party, and then it says, Cecil waves as they vanish in the distance. As soon as Cecil is sure they are gone, he rips off the rubber mask he's been wearing all through the movie. The fiend beneath the mask is an unpleasant little man about 43 years old with a dingy blonde crew cut. He looks like an FBI agent. He tosses the mask aside and starts toward the unconscious king of the grunts. So Cecil's just been this dumb pony kid, right? All through the movie, this dumb assistant to Billy. All of a sudden, he's a fucking FBI agent. Okay, so that's page 84. And this shocking turn of events. And we got 92 pages. So for the next 8 pages, here's what happens. He's now called Cecil/Agent. Cecil/Agent grabs the Grunt King by his hair and kicks him viciously in the groin. The Cecil agent, the FBI agent guy goes, "Where's the old man?" The Grunt King, bleeding from the mouth. The Cecil agent's pissed off, and he employs some Marine Corps interrogation tactics. And he says to the Grunt King, "You want me to deal you a fatal stroke to the nose? Karate? Huh? You want me to hit your nose bone and make it go up into your brain and make you die?" The Grunt King, semi-conscious, goes, Now, back in the execution chamber where Billy is trapped, he hears the mumblings and footsteps of Beefheart and Sue as they find their way into the chamber. His eyes are closed in fear. He does not know who or what is approaching. In the previous script, 5 years before, he's tied up with Johnny. But there's no Johnny in the 1969 script, so it's just Billy by himself, captured, ready to be killed in the torture thing. But things have happened that interrupted that happening. But now, somebody's entering the chamber again, and he's really paranoid. So Billy, devoid of all hope, goes, "Oh no, this is it. Oh Heavenly Creator, deliver me in my hour of torment, in my final..." But then Sue yells, "We're here to save you." Beefheart and Sue dash up to Billy. And Beefheart smugly says, "That's right, Billy, I'm Captain Beefheart, and this is my loyal assistant, Sue. I'm magic, and I can make myself invisible and fly through time and space and other dimensions, and that's how I got here. I can take..." It's actually saying more than the time and space and other dimensions. I don't know if that was other dimensions was part of the previous one. "I can take other people along with me if I want to, and that's how she got here. I bet you're awfully glad." Now, in the early months with Ion, we've heard that little plan that Ion laid on me, that we're going to go up in the Grand Malay and jump off the fucking hotel and go to other worlds, and not like the Mayans get stuck in other worlds or not return. We're going to return. All right, that was my first assignment. I didn't tell I didn't tell anybody that for years. I kept that one secret.
And are we going to a cave?
No, I don't know where we're going. We're going into other worlds, led by me.
Because Zappa always has this cave.
Right, that's the hollow entrance to the other world. He does say back in 64, I'm magic and I can make myself invisible. I'm magic and make myself invisible and fly through time and space and other dimensions. Oh, okay, so he says that back in 64. So no new addition there. Okay, so they save Billy. Now, the Cecil/agent, he's looking for Billy, and he's throttling the old king of the grunts. The king is looking very wasted and beaten up. Cecil/agent, unbelievably vicious. Where is he, you communist son of a bitch? The grunt king, gesturing toward the door. He's in the execution chamber over there. Gasp. And the grunt king dies. So now Beefheart says, gesturing proudly, our work is done here now, and we must be off to my secret mountain retreat to watch over good people everywhere and keep them safe from danger and harm and the forces of evil. And so in parting, may I say this, it sure as heck has been real beautiful and quite an experience making it up to here to the moon to save you, Billy. And I think everything's going to work out just fine for you in the future, and I wish you all the best of luck. So long for now, old timer, and God bless you. So Beefheart and Sue dematerialize. Now, that's what happened in the previous script, but then Beefheart secretly goes to the orgy rather than back home, right? So let's see, is that what he says exactly? What he says at the end when they save Billy? Yeah, work is done here. And so in parting, I say, it's been a real pleasure to save you two fellows, but it's no longer two fellows. So he says, and so it sure as heck, he doesn't say heck in the first one. It sure as heck has been real beautiful. He doesn't say that. And quite an experience making up here to the moon to save you, Billy. In 64, he says, it's been a real pleasure to save you two fellows, and I know everything. So he adds this bit about it's been real beautiful and quite an experience. That's sort of like hippie talk, which is now in the media 5 years later, saying things are beautiful. And everything's going to work out just fine for you. And so long for now, fellows. But in 69, he says, so long for now, old timer, and God bless you. He says, God bless you in 64 also. Okay. So we know Beefheart ends up at the orgy. And that's sort of a happy ending, right? And they're just hoping the high school kids come to the orgy. But now, here is Cecil has been fooling us all along, and now Beefheart is heading off to the secret retreat. And I'm saying, he'll just end up at the orgy. And then it says, a medium shot, Billy showing door in background. Billy is completely confused. Beefheart and Sue said they came to save him, but now he's still shackled to the torture rack. They didn't get him off the torture rack. He hears the door from the Grunt King's throne room creak open and strains to look over his shoulder to see who it is. He sort of thinks it's Captain Beefheart coming back, but it turns out to be Cecil/agent. So he enters the room and says, that you, Sweeney? Billy, startled. Yes, of course. I'm Billy Sweeney, King of the Moon. Is there anything I can do for you? The Cecil agent. Are you guys still there for this climax?
Yeah. Yeah.
For the climax.
Cecil agent approaches quietly. An air of mysterious doom pervades. We hear Cecil's footsteps and Billy's labored breathing. Cecil confronts Billy. Billy goes, who are you? And Cecil says matter-of-factly, it's all over, Sweeney. We've been checking you out for quite some time now. Remember, this is the government who did the official space landing, and they're pissed off that Billy got there first. Billy, who's confused, says, what? I don't get it. Who are you? Now, Cecil agent is staring psychotically into the camera. Cecil agent, in brackets, cold and sinister, says, the United States government does not like dreamers. They are dangerous. They cause confusion. Now, in 69, Zappa is interviewed in Circus magazine, and I think it's in there, it's like the first time you see it. He says, we make an environment special for dreamers and is not hostile to dreamers. So Zappa saying, there's the programming, we make an environment. Can you see, Oprah saying, I'm here to help change the world, make it a better place. No. Does Oprah go, we're here making an environment to program you into a better situation? Well, that's what Frank says. We are making an environment for all those dreamers that the rest of the world is hostile towards. So right that summer he's saying it in 1969, and then he's going to write this in the script. The United States government does not like dreamers. They are dangerous. They cause confusion, ferment, and sometimes even happiness. You dare to dream the great American You dare to dream the great American dream. The one where you start on the bottom and work your way to the what?
The great American dream.
Yeah, Dean, yes. Dream.
The great
now remember, in 64, Billy is a janitor, but he plans to work his way up to the top of the factory he's working for, but then the government takes away the contract, and Billy's pissed, but it's not going to stop him going to the top. He just changes his vehicle, and he makes a moonshot so he can get to the top via the moon, which is a modern update, Frank, seeing as the effects of the satellite environment. You don't want to take over the world. You want to take over the moon. Now, what are you saying, the great American Dean? What did you say?
Yes, like your last name. Dr. Dean.
Not my last name, Carolyn's last name. Or her
Dr.
fake
Dean.
last name. Remember, her real last name is not Dean. That's named after Garrett. You dare to dream the great American dream. The one where you start on the bottom and work your way to the top. You wanted to match wits with the system in capital letters. You challenged its supreme authority, in capital letters, its supreme authority. Defied its universal mediocrity. Billy Sweeney defied, in big letters, its universal mediocrity. All because you were a dreamer in capital letters. The great American dream is phased out and permanently canceled. On behalf of the government of the United States of America, the business community, all organized religion, mass media, and the armed forces, I perform this execution. It says Billy is terrified. Close up on Billy. He's terrified. The Cecil agent shoots Billy 5 times in the chest and stomach with an Army .45 while Billy stares in disbelief directly into the camera. Smoke from the shots enter frame. Billy bleeds from mouth and nose as his head falls to one side. Billy dies. Hardly a happy ending, Roxy. Billy's fucking dead. That didn't happen in 1964.
Damn.
Now, here's the connecting link. You go to the Uncle Meat booklet, put out the same time as the script being is written, and there's a picture of an artichoke, but it has Frank Zappa's face on it. And it says, I've just been killed by the government because I knew too much. Frank, or a Frank simulation, or a reference to Frank, is has been killed. That's the level of Frank that's Billy Sweeney, right? The world is becoming quite paranoid, I guess, for Frank by 69. He's nervous. He thinks he's going to be killed, so he has himself act out in that movie. He didn't have that in 64. It wasn't that doom-filled. Like he says in the page before, Cecil agent approaches quietly. An air of mysterious doom pervades. We hear Cecil's footsteps and Billy's labored breathing. Cecil confronts Billy. So now, very sad. I bawled for 2 hours when I read this. Billy was killed. I couldn't take it. I almost committed suicide. It was a horrible ending. I didn't see it coming. I had fantasies of more orgies. But it says, the Cecil agent, I forgot to finish the sentence. He says, on behalf of the government, look who he lists, the government of the United States of America, the business community, all organized religion, mass media, and the armed forces. That's 5 quadrants, 5 sections. I perform this execution, ... to keep the free world safe from scum like you and even the moon. So we're going to keep the moon free. I think that's the way. To keep the free world safe from scum like you and even the moon. I guess even keep the moon safe. So Billy, the scum fucker, dies. So then you have a medium shot of Cecil agent with Billy slumped in the background. Then the Cecil agent says, this is a recording. And you freeze frame. And so Cecil is a fucking recording. Freeze frame and dissolve to Beefheart in the watch hall room. Beefheart's not at the orgy. He's gone back to the secret mountain reclusive place center. And he has, it says, we see an extreme close-up of the dossier marked Sweeney, shown earlier in the film. Remember he showed that to somebody. We pull back to a medium close-up of Beefheart as he holds the dossier, studies its cover briefly, finally reinserting it into the slot in the watch-all machine. So this Beefheart doesn't care about Sweeney, or he doesn't know, but he's watching everything. I think he should know. He pushes a button. The machine swallows the dossier, and the view screen lights up. On the screen, we see the frozen Cecil/agent posed in front of the lifeless Sweeney. Beefheart looks at his wristwatch, takes a drink of Pepsi, and pushes another button marked auto-destruct. So Beefheart doesn't even care that Sweeney's dead. The sound effects in the environment around Beefheart, I mean, he's supposed to be in a secret, well, maybe he's not in a secret retreat. He's at his home because his parents, it says roller derby on TV in the living room, Sue and Glenn cheering and raving their favorites. Glenn farts. Sue tells him to stop it. Glenn says he can't help it when he gets excited, and he farts again. So that's what's happening around Beefheart. What does he call it? Secret Mountain Retreat is what he calls it. Okay, so maybe because Beefheart has many worlds, he can have the retreat right in his bedroom, right? He's in a different world the parents aren't aware of. So then it has a medium shot frozen on Cecil Agent with Billy slumped in the background. Cecil/agent's face, his face melts, exposing wires, worms, little clocks, and motors. It's kind of like the cover of Burnt Winnie Sandwich, which comes out in 1970. This is a surrealistic collage. So his face exposes, as it melts, exposes wires, worms, little clocks, and motors. His clothes fall away. His arms come off, and oil leaks out of the stumps. The remainder of his fuselage bursts into flames. So what do you think of that? What an ending for the government agent. So I guess even like the victors get nailed.
It's
what?
Like a Bob diary entry. It's like Bob is in this secret island, naked, controlling people from his Skype.
That's right. That's right. I'm controlling people through my Skype. So it says,
then doing this obscure radio program on an obscure.
That's right. I won the Secret Council 10 in 1988 by having an obscure election in my obscure radio show on CKLN. Yeah. Holeopathic.
You already solved the golf. And now
yes, I control the new golf. Anything, no new golf will be rebuilt without my say-so. I'm like Billy Sweeney. He went for the moon. I fucking owned the golf. I went for the real stuff. I bought and took majority shareholder of the guff. So it says Beefheart's in his watch-all. That's watch-all. In his watch-all room, he's surveilling everything. It says Beefheart turns away from the watch-all view screen, which shows a burning Cecil agent visibly dying. Beefheart goes to his closet, well, not dying, just he's a machine. He goes to his closet, and after fumbling through some clothes, whips out a costume that looks just like the original Cecil garb that Cecil agent, the machine, was wearing. Beefheart strips to his underpants. That is when we notice a peculiar line around the base of his neck. Beefheart's neck. There's a line. He dresses himself in the new costume and rips off the rubber mask he's been wearing all through the film, revealing the fact that Captain Beefheart was the real Cecil all along. What an ending. So everything drastic is happening in the last scene. So it turns out Beefheart was wearing, that Cecil was wearing a Captain Beefheart costume. In the sound environment, more farts and roller derby and excited participation from the living room. So Glenn and Sue don't even notice that they don't even have a kid. the kid is a fake kid, and it's really Cecil. So Cecil is now called Beefheart/Cecil. The other one was Cecil/Agent. So Beefheart/Cecil tidies up a bit, scratches his head vigorously, in brackets, to get the circulation going from wearing the mask, holds his shoulders back, takes a deep breath, and dematerializes, leaving us with a view of the smoldering Cecil/Agent on the view screen. And we dissolve to the lunar surface, and let's see, this script has we're on page 90, only got 3 pages left. Dissolve to the lunar surface, night, and there's stock footage. Oh yeah, here's where I was looking for the astronauts. The Apollo astronauts cavort gaily with their scientific gear and bound past the stiff plastic American flag. So you have the stock footage of the guys on the moon. And then it says special effect. The jostling real-life camera on the moon will pan to a nearby crater. It says real life, in quotes. The jostling real-life camera on the moon will pan to a nearby crater. Freeze frame on crater. I guess this is the camera that the astronauts took. Oxbury Inn. Is that a film term, to Oxbury Inn? Oxbury Inn, secret purple trapdoor with diamond-studded handle, which is just closing. The American moon men do not see this. Their, quote, real-life technical monologue continues over this effect. So he's implying this is a fake moon landing? The jostling real-life camera on the moon will pan to a nearby crater, and then you see somebody going into the secret door. And then it says the American moon men do not see this. Their real-life, in quotes, technical monologue continues over this fact. I guess they're talking the way people saw it in the greatest educational classroom setting ever, McLuhan said. The big hidden ground of the moonshot, the moon landing, was the fact the whole world watched it in a televised classroom. It was the greatest educational program ever, said McLuhan. Their real-life technical monologue continues. So I guess that's just him talking technically that they faked in Nevada, right? According to the Evergreens. Right. So there's this black cave. Now, it shows Beefheart/Cecil closing secret trapdoor. Beefheart/Cecil materializes with his hand on the latch of the secret trapdoor. He closes it, dusts himself off, and walks through the tunnel in the direction of a warm, glowing light and voices with hot joy in them. So he walks toward the orgy. Walks through the tunnel in the direction of a warm, glowing light and voices out like this, with hot joy in them. Ever seen voices described that way? Hot joy in them? Hot joy in them. Sound, hatch clank, I guess the door clank, and distant orgy. That's the sound background. Then on page 91 it says, wide shot of orgy with Beefheart/Cecil entering. All the green girls and Larry are nude, carousing shamelessly about the subterranean garden. Staging should be sexy, so here's the instructions. Staging should be sexy, but reasonably wholesome, verging on naive. Beefheart/Cecil enters, already stripping his clothes off. Remember, in the previous one, he just winked, and we didn't know if he took his clothes off. But here he is. Celestia, who's in love with Cecil, sees him, goes hotly, Earthling, oh, Earthling, you've come to me at last. Larry says, hiya, Cecil. Beefheart/Cecil says, hiya, Larry, let's jump him. And Beefheart/Cecil has all his clothes off now. He and Larry ravage the flock of lovelies with depraved teenage abandon. So they gangbang all the girls, the green girls. Beefheart/Cecil that means he's ignoring, he's including Celestia. Beefheart, now this would be the actual Don Vliet might be playing this guy. Who do we have? In the script, Celestia is Grace Slick. Did I tell you this? So Grace Slick of the Jefferson Airplane is Celestia. The King of the Grunts is Don Preston, one of the longtime members of the Mother's Invention. Gorgonzola and some of the grunts, they got names, Gorgonzola, Strinzel, they're members of Beefheart's band, Rocket Morton and Zoot Rollo and Victor Hayden. And there's something called the Orcs, played by Jeff Rochelle. I looked that up. That's some kind of fantasy, science fiction literature out of Doctor Who or something. You ever heard of the Orcs? They're part of some children's show or something, or science fiction bullshit. I don't know. Anyways, Orcs is played by one guy. Billy Sweeney is played by Bob Guy. I remember that guy. He was at the... Oh, that's me. Bob Guy. Holy fuck. I didn't realize that.
Bob Guy.
Bob Guy. They don't know Bob's last name. They just call him Guy. He's a Bob Guy. It's just Bob, Dobbs, Marshall. Never really what the fuck he is. Bob Guy. Billy Sweeney. Now, there is an actual Bob Guy who made some recordings, I think, at the Cucamonga studio. I'm not sure, but I think that's an embed for me. Guess who plays Beefheart's father? Howlin' Wolf, for fuck's sake. Who Beefheart always sounded like Howlin' Wolf, so I guess he was Howlin' Wolf's son. So that's a nice joke by Zappa. The father is played by Howlin' Wolf, and Captain Beefheart's played by Don, and Sue's played by Sue. So Beefheart. Now, Beefheart was Cecil. And Cecil is Jeffrey Cotton, another member of the Beefheart band. So it's we don't know which guy is Beefheart Cecil. It looked like Beefheart, so Don played that part, but then in the end it's now Jeffrey Cotton. All right, and Bob Guy got killed. That's not good. Okay, so now here's Beefheart and Larry ravaging the flock of lovelies with depraved teenage abandon. Beefheart Cecil applies most of his energy to Celestia. They make out and everything. The sound is hot pants rock and roll music. Hot pants is, I thought, like 71, 72, but maybe in L.A. they've already got hot pants. Hot pants rock and roll music. The orgy sequence builds in intensity. Quick flashes of the dreary work on the lunar surface. So it flashes back to the Apollo astronauts. And they're doing dreary work, oblivious to the orgy. There's a plastic flag. Nixon's phone message to the moon. That's pretty boring. And interior shots from Beefheart's living room, complete with farts and roller derby, are all intercut with the stylized freak scene in the subterranean garden. So this mixture of the mainstream bullshit Nevada fake moon landing with boring phone calls from Nixon interspersed with the orgy in the subterranean garden. And the credits start to play over this crazed montage. As the last credit slide fades away, we see Beefheart Cecil locked in a passionate embrace with Celestia. We can't see their buns, but we know what they're up to. So we can't see their bumps screwing. But we know what they're up to. Larry is passionately kissing and fondling the tits of a lovely green maiden. We zoom into an astonishing extra close-up of Larry's thumb as it depresses the maiden's left nipple. So we see Larry's thumb working the maiden's left nipple. Freeze frame. Oxberry in fluorescent tattoo forming a neon crescent above areola. So on the nipple, a neon crescent is forming. Oxberry in fluorescent tattoo, a tattoo forming a neon crescent above areola, and it says auto-destruct. We saw that happen to Beefheart blew up the Cecil agent. Meanwhile, Celestia, she's passionately saying, Earthling, oh my beloved, dearest Earthling, hold me, kiss me, thrill me. And then there's a sound. It's an obnoxious buzzer. Unfreeze frame past the auto-destruct sign on the nipple, and Larry continues to fondle. Celestia is continuing to be worked over by Beefheart, or Beefheart Cecil, and she goes, my dearest darling, my Earthling, all these years of hot longing and waiting for. Then there's a close-up of Celestia and Beefheart Cecil. Her eyes are closed as she kisses Beefheart Cecil's cheek, which is melting away, exposing wires and worms, etc. Holy shit. Cecil's a fucking organic robotoid. She continues to kiss this mess obliviously as the film does its final fade-out. She doesn't even care that she's kissing a melting robot. And Celestia is saying, she was saying, all these years of hot longing, waiting for an earthling such as you. Together we'll start anew. A beautiful life for both of us among the stars in the heavens. Love and peace and kindness and hot thrills nightly. And then it fades out with Celestia all happy that she's going to repopulate the moon, and Beefheart's melting away as a robot. The end. Now, how's that for a shocking ending? You know what it means? I didn't say happy ending. What did you say? Did you say happy ending?
I said that's a happy ending.
Yeah, what a fucking ending.
Yeah.
So,
yeah,
tell me what it means.
The metaphor of